bandwidth to do. Yeah, there was other hands up. Yeah.
Just a comment, some constructive comment for your diagram for those who are visually inclined like myself. It looks like the arrows only go one way, but I believe they're supposed to go both ways. But it just
this is just a similar diagram.
But people like me who look at pictures like that, I might go away with the wrong impression.
Yeah.
If you're going to re-illustrate that, make it clear that the arrows all work both ways.
Will do. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah. We're learning how to talk about this stuff and trying to figure out exactly what our strategy is. So it's just sort of intended as a starting point. Yeah.
I'm wondering overall what your goals are in terms of the organizing. Is it to get more voters out? Is it to get the public's ideas about what they want? And if so, how do you also have a strategy for defeating the Tories? Do you think getting more people out is going to do it, or do you need something else? I'm thinking of some efforts of proportional representation. I know the parties are not buying into that, are they?
Do you want to take a stab?
Well, you could probably both answer. But before I answer, everything that we're doing, we're just playing our small part in trying to shift what's politically possible in the country. So at times we're talking and we're like, are we going to defeat the Tories all by ourselves? And then we kind of get ahead of ourselves because we know that we're not going to. We're talking about a few different strategies. One part that is really important is that we really want people on the ground to know what people in their community think and care about, and we have a large storytelling component. So changing the narrative of the country, that kind of work is really important to us, especially because we have such a large community and it's an interesting experiment in practicing direct democracy. I don't think we're going to go very, very deep in every single riding. Right now we're trying to do some analysis to identify ridings where the Conservatives won the seat but got less than 50% of the vote, and we're considering a number of mechanisms to boost voter turnout there and encourage different kinds of cooperation in order to unseat the Conservatives in those ridings. What else are we doing? I think those are kind of the two major categories. And next week we're hopefully going to have some very clear scenarios to present to our community, along with some framing questions to get feedback and test energy around which one we should pursue.
There's a few things it could look like. I mean, if the people who didn't vote were to vote, they would be a majority. 40%. So that's one avenue. There's also a question of can we find the right kinds of people in the right ridings that might be willing to change from one of the progressive parties to another in areas where that would actually make a difference. So essentially strategic voting, but coordinated and organised with folks on the ground to make it happen. Then the sort of the game changer is what if we can get the progressive parties to cooperate. I didn't talk about it, but we've done a lot of work both through the NDP and the Liberal leadership races, trying to boost the idea of a one-time cooperation deal so that we can get away from the current system. And we're now, with the current leaders of both the Liberals and the NDP being opposed to that, we're sort of shifting our thinking and trying to figure out could there be some sorts of grassroots cooperation, could riding associations get together, could it be a little bit more, a little bit less explicit but still effective. But those are all the kinds of mechanisms we're thinking about, and that's exactly what we're looking for your best thoughts on. Especially if you have ideas of what you think would work here, what you think would work in ridings close by. Yeah.
A comment and a question. One of your campaigns, and I cannot remember which of the many campaigns, I spent a number of times over the weekend trying to get through to donate, because I will not donate online.
Right.
I finally gave up. That's the comment.
Yeah.
The question is, could you, and I'm also hoping other organizations will also do it, increase the ways in which people who do not want their email address out there can respond to campaigns. I think it's really important. There's so many petitions out there asking for my email. I don't want to give it, but I do want to participate.
Yeah, it's, I appreciate both points. On the fundraising piece, we relatively recently hired a donor stewardship person to try and increase that capacity. Probably, if it was any more than sort of 6 months ago that you were trying, there were still 3 people on our staff team, and it was impossible to take all the calls. We at various times were overwhelmed with response and people wanting to donate. So I'm sorry you had that experience. We're doing our best to improve it. On the email piece, it's a real tough one. I mean, it's kind of like I was saying as an entry point. We need to be able to communicate with people and follow up. And there's a balance there. I mean, how do you? It's tough to know how we could actually get people impacting their MPs unless we can communicate with them. And so that's why a lot of what we do is built around email.
I'm willing to give my telephone number, knowing I'm not going to get many phone calls because you have got time to phone people. So it's not coming that way. I'm willing to give my telephone number, but I'm willing to give my postal code. I don't want to give my email address. And it means that a lot of petitions that are online, your other organisation, I don't participate in. I just wish organisations would give a bit more thought to that aspect and do their best to come up with something. I don't know what, but...
Yeah. It's a tough one. We'll give it some thought and feedback. Yeah.
With respect to the email, you have your own personal email. You want your friends and that to get you in contact. What you do is you just create an email with Hotmail, and you know that will go to political organizations or what. You create an email for the things that you want to go in there. When you start seeing the people take advantage of it, you just dump it and get another email address and start fresh.
Well, like people solving each other.
Yeah, that's if you know how to do it. And also, I mean, how do I know you're not passing my email around? I can't. Or you or many of the other organisations are not passing it around. That's the other aspect.
Yeah. So I haven't been doing a good job of keeping track of everyone who's got hands up, so it's a bit random. Oh, in the back? Sure.
I just wondered, had you had any possibility of getting through the educators? I was thinking in terms of universities, and I know that's difficult for you to do, but maybe if you could get just to a union leader in the public school and the Catholic school, that what you were doing, because really you can present it in a broad way that is a part of the civic course and at the university. So if you went to the union leader, they can maybe spread it out as a package you have to help teachers. Just not right now to do it, but to think in terms, because wouldn't it be wonderful to have kids learning?
It would. It's a really interesting point. I mean, we so far a lot of
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question was, could we start shifting things by getting educators involved, sort of high school teachers, universities, those kinds of things? I think the answer is yes. A lot of what we've been doing so far has been focused on this kind of responsive campaigning. We're also trying to give thought to, we know that just basically being a progressive organisation that fights back isn't going to be enough. We actually need to come up with a bold new vision for where the company goes in the future. And part of what our thinking at the moment is going into trying to figure out how that works. What's the long-term aims? Where are we trying to go? How can we actually change the course of Canada for the better? I think there's a big role for education in that, and I'd love to get folks' thoughts.
That's an incredible idea too. When I framed the long-term campaign kind of as this engagement and storytelling piece and the election, the engagement and storytelling piece, in the initial development, we're trying to think, how do we build this online organizing network that can impact the election? But it's so much more than that. So it's like, how do we build an online organizing network where somebody has somebody on Lead Now who can develop resources with them, and they can go off and use the connections that presumably they have in the school system to give a workshop on, like in a civics class, on using this petition platform and how that ties into other forms of engagement, because it's not just about voting. It's yeah.
Have you considered maybe going into public libraries to do different workshops like this, get the word out as well?
At the moment, what we're primarily focusing on is kind of reach people online, because we're a relatively small team, so to get out to libraries everywhere would be difficult. As part of this kind of organising, where we're trying to actually get lots of volunteers spreading the word, that sort of stuff might be possible. Yeah, you want to add anything?
I always want to tell people that we seem much bigger than we are. Like, I think we seem like a very well-resourced professional organization. It's really a bunch of us across the coffee shop, the country and coffee shops on our computers. Yeah.
We're really just a bunch of troublemakers with a big email list. Henry.
I was just going to say, one aspect that I'm working on personally right now within unions is getting retirees involved. Now, it's good that a lot of youth are involved, but and I know that retirees are involved too, but there's no specific campaign geared towards retirees to utilize knowledge and experience that we've had in the past. There's a lot of knowledge and experience out there that's available. And a lot of retirees are sitting there that aren't aware that they can get involved or how to get involved. And I think we need to see more aimed at retirees to bring on board.
We've got a lot of retirees on our email list.
No, and that's what I'm saying. I know
They have time, they're passionate about stuff, they really care.
They just got to
but I'd like to see more encouragement for leadership roles within the retiree community.
I definitely agree, and I'd love to, especially if you're working with the
Congress of New
Congress of
Retirees.
Retirees. I'd love to chat about that more in terms of how we do that.
Sure.
That would be really exciting. Jump to that.
One of the most dangerous things about living in a country where the political system is so bad is that people's memories are really short. What you have to do is you have to have on a website the accumulated things that both the Liberal and the Conservatives have done for us that are negative. You could get literally hundreds and hundreds and thousands of things that they did with to us. I mean, like, how many people know that our Canadian savings bonds are in the hands of an American company, TDS of Texas, and that they have to pay them a certain percentage when it was the Bank of Canada that used to get the money, and and that means you're getting less money. Like, there's so many wrongs, and then people can see what have they done for us, and then they can judge, hey, these guys, they haven't done anything good for us, and then they say, well, what have the NDP or the Canadian Action Party done for us, and then you get some of the stuff down that they've managed to do.
Would you be interested in help, if there was a platform where anyone could submit personal stories of how they were impacted by terrible things that the government?
I've been around for a while. I ran the 93 election.
Great idea. Let's make sure we connect. I think you've had your hand up for a while.
Can you elaborate on why the parties won't cooperate, the NDP and the Liberals? And given that they probably won't, can you offer some suggestions on how we might be able to defeat Harper if they will not cooperate?
Yeah. Okay. I'm not inside Justin Trudeau or Tom Mulcair's head. I'm kind of glad I'm not. So it's hard to really know.
You can
speculate.
You can speculate.
In both the leadership races of the NDP and the Liberals, there were candidates that were very, very explicitly pro-cooperation. For the NDP, it was Nathan Cullen, and for the Liberals, it was Joyce Murray. We actually did a lot of organising in those leadership races and managed to give both of those candidates a boost. Nathan Cullen ended up coming in a close third, and Joyce Murray actually came in second, although Trudeau won by a landslide. But the fact that she came in second, I think was quite significant. So what we know, there's actually an appetite even within the parties for cooperation to happen. I think you've got a couple of things in play. On the one hand, you've got the NDP, who in the last election achieved a massive breakthrough, swept across Quebec, became the official opposition for the first time, and feel like they've got upward momentum. So Mulcair's position at the moment is he's saying he wants to sort of get the job done, finish what Jack Layton started, and move the NDP into power. At the same time, you've got the Liberals who were crushed in the last election, but are now bouncing back in the polls. So they think they're on the up. Personally, I don't think, with the current party's positions, I don't think either of them would give us a government that would actually take us to where we need to go as Canada as a whole. And the challenge I find is to try and figure out what we do in the next election in face of this. It's a couple of things. It could be a couple of things that we talked about already. In a lot of the ridings, the margins are actually not that big. I could imagine a team of volunteers going and signing up 1,000 people going door to door, sort of in the evenings and weekends, signing up 1,000 people in a riding where the margin of victory was 100. You could then imagine getting those 1,000 people together, maybe online, maybe even in person, and saying, okay, let's talk about this. If we're progressives in this riding, what are we going to do in the next election? Should we vote for the Liberal candidate? Should we vote for the NDP candidate? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the candidates. But then let's all vote together. Let's pick one and do it, and get over the fact that you've kind of got the split energy, which is very half the Conservatives are right up the middle. So I think that's one possibility. There could be other things. There could be engaging people who have never voted before, and that's exactly what our discussions at the moment are about. It's what do we think is going to work best in different areas? What do we think can actually make a difference? Because we really want to make a difference on the issues that matter. I want to make a difference on climate change, and that means shifting the government. It's not going to be enough, but it's something that needs to happen. Does that help a bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right at the back.
I've been doing some work with around the vote with groups that are seen as not voting.
Right.
And one of the issues that stand out is that their issues are not popular in the elections, whether it's municipal, provincial, or federal. And it's how to get our machines of the parties, how to wrestle the issues out of their hands and give the issues back to people. So in Hamilton, if you look at who doesn't vote, there's 20% of the population that's usually poor, low income, and another pretty much equally 20% that are renters, tenants, and they don't end up on the voters list, and they're less likely to answer the door or be enumerated. So you got 40% of the population, who can swing the vote if the issues are relevant to them. And we know the machines of the parties own the issues and manipulate the issues in a way that they don't appeal to certain segments, because why would they raise issues for groups that do not vote?
It's catch-22, isn't it? You've got the parties not talking about the issues because people don't vote, and people don't vote because the parties aren't talking about the issues that matter. It's a real challenge, and if we're going to, I think at some level we've got to go and start trying to organise the people that don't vote and convince them that actually they have real power, and actually if they do vote, then they will be able to leverage that into making a difference on the issues that matter. The other big